Ready for, as the day I am filming this, it is now July 5th, so we are 5 days into July. Today, I'm going to stop and rank all 6 June movies that I have seen. Yeah, 6. This is crazy. This has been the biggest month for me so far. So far, the summer was okay until this month. I saw 4 movies in theaters, and I saw a couple at home. What did I think of those movies? What are they, my ranking? Where do they place on the list? I'm going to tell you mine, but before I do that, please make sure to tell me yours down below in the comment section. While you're down there, please hit the subscribe and like button, and hit the bell if you never want to miss another video that I upload. And with that said, thank you guys again for hitting 100 subscribers. And with that said, we're going to get started talking about June 2023 movies with 6th place. Unfortunately, I think I'd have to go Extraction 2 here. Now, just a quick warning. I do not hate, I do not dislike a single one of these movies. This was a phenomenal month. As of right now, they're all in my top 20. I think Extraction 2 is about number 16 on my list. So they're all in there. This was just easily the worst movie for me. Starting off with the positives, the action set pieces are obviously phenomenal. They're memorable, they're exciting. There's a 21-minute oneer where there's no cuts, no nothing. It's just one continuous take, and it was awesome. The second big action sequence was awesome and great to watch. And the action, of course, was just phenomenal. Also, it very much, instead of being like just a movie where it focuses on the action instead of the character work, there's very much a lot of character work here instead of just being action sequences. Nick and Yaz, they both have plenty of screen time here, and you feel the pain when Yaz dies, and you want them, and you can really feel the chemistry between them, and you tell how big of a blockbuster it is, and how much more they did compared to that original film. It improves on so many things from that film that I did really end up enjoying this at the end of the day. The big problem with Extraction 2 is, you look at Extraction 1, and the movie has big stakes. It ends with Chris Hemsworth on a bridge, getting shot at, and shot through the neck and killed. This movie ends with Chris Hemsworth and a guy fighting in a chapel, and then they just kill the guy. There's no stakes. You know they're going to survive. And it's just, like, not as near as entertaining as the other big action sequences. Even the big action sequences in this movie are a 21-minute prison break, and then destroying buildings and hotels just to try to get them with intense sequences. All that is great, and then the ending just really kind of threw away all that momentum for me. And it ended up not being as enjoyable. And I think I'm criticizing this based on the original instead of its own film. Because of its own film, it's got great action, great character work. Just the ending, it definitely should have had more of a spark. And it ended. And these bad guys were to be worse than the ones before. These are guys that will kill their own men for their cause. And the way it ends is they just defeat the leader by throwing some things at him and just killing him in the easiest way possible. Something we could have done earlier in the film. It's just not as big or exciting as an ending that I wanted. It left kind of a sour taste in my mouth. Also, the very ending, though, it made me excited for a sequel. I wanted to know who the mission was. Idris Elba in this movie is great. Overall, I had fun with the movie. I really did like it. For June movie, though, it has to be my worst one. 5th place, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. And for me, this was a fun blockbuster, but it was also very safe. I'm going to compare these to the sequels again. If you compare these to the rest of the Michael Bay movies, those movies had balls. They would do what they wanted, when they wanted, big action sequence. And obviously, none of that really played out all that often. But this one really felt like it didn't really have that spark or that risk that we really needed to propel the franchise forward. Starting with the positives, I really like this cast. Anthony Ramos and Pete Davidson as Mirage and the human character, I don't even remember his name. They were very, very good chemistry. I really like both of them. Peter Cullen obviously is great. The voice actors are great. Only one I had my criticisms with was Dominique Fishback. I didn't really like her as much as I wanted to. I definitely had a lot of problems with her. But I still really think this cast is great. The CGI action For the first 2 acts, I wasn't really on board of that, but when we head to the 3rd act and the big final battle is really fun, and everything what the trailers promised was really fun, and I really like these villains. Scourge is always a great villain. I've always liked Unicron more than I've liked Megatron, so he was a great villain as well, and intense, and even though you didn't have any stakes because it's set in the past and you know the world lives, I still really like those villains. But like I said, it just really plays this movie very safe. There's no big director style for Stephen Cavell. There's no big, ginormous action sequences with buildings being destroyed. There's no big, inappropriate jokes, thank God. It really didn't work in the Bay trilogy. But there's none of the flair that Michael Bay had that kept those movies to be special. This movie was a safe but fun blockbuster, and I cannot mean more safe. I walked out of the theater and I thought, I really like that, but imagine if it was directed by Michael Bay. If it was directed by Michael Bay with this exact same story, the action sequences would have been more fun, the story could have been elevated, and it could have been much better, because it's just, it's fun. I liked it. It's in my top 3 Transformers movies, but it needed another flair to keep it going. And if the Transformers franchise continues down this path, I really, really don't think that this is gonna be, like, Bumblebee in this movie, they were really safe blockbusters. They never really had their own distinct flair. And what we need is another distinct flair to keep this franchise rolling in the way that it's supposed to. Again, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. Another negative, though, is Optimus Prime had a character arc here that people were saying, oh, Optimus Prime had a character arc, that's awesome. For me, I'm going to personally say that I don't like his character arc. It makes him feel way too young, where in Bumblebee, he was like the same old wise guy. And in this movie, he's like way too young, and he feels irresponsible. And that he was just kind of annoying for his character arc. He's like, I don't like humans, I'm going to kill humans. And it just didn't really work for me all that much. And so, there are some issues here. It's very safe, but it is fun, and it's not as near bad as what the lows of this franchise can go through. In 4th place, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I made a review on this. It's uploaded either yesterday or today. I don't know which day I'm uploading it, but it's also coming on in my flash review, just so you guys know. Go check that video out. But Dial of Destiny is 2/3 a fantastic Indiana Jones film, and 1/3 a mixed bag for me. The first 2 acts here were absolutely great. The performances were great. The action set pieces compare up to Raiders, in my opinion. I think that these action set pieces are memorable. I mean, we have Indiana Jones running on a horse, passing trains and just dodging trains. You have Indiana Jones jumping from cars to cars. It's all really fun and entertaining. The mystery and the exploration in the first 2 acts are done really, really well. Overall, it's just a great return for Indiana Jones. This final film, it's an emotional send-off, especially with that final scene was just very emotional, and an emotional send-off to one of the most beloved characters in cinema history. It was very fun and very energetic, and I gotta say, this movie's getting way too much hate. I love the villains, I love the cast, I love the action. I think it's a solid Indiana Jones film. The problem is here, the 3rd act is an extremely mixed bag for me. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that it was so-so. Once I left the theater, I was like, yeah, that's in my top 10. Now, it's just a little out of my top 10, because it's just the 3rd act was a little mixed. First off, it really needed to shave off a good 20 to 30 minutes of this movie. I was sitting there, and like, there should have been a half hour, maybe a little more past that point, but it was on for an hour more. And I sat back and was like, huh, this movie should be over. And I'm going to be honest, it wasn't as near as entertaining as it should have been in the final act because of how long it went. And if it calmed down and, you know, shaved off a good 30 to 40 minutes, it would have been way more entertaining. Plus, this 3rd act is, like, very messy. We go to the past, and Indiana Jones almost chooses the worst character arc in cinema history, where he would stay in Rome. That's a terrible character arc. But, for me, I also, at the same time, think that that was good, because then he goes back to the real world and learns that he has a point to live for, which is very emotional and great. but just that weird decision is not done very well. And then even like the final act features a kid who's never flown a plane before jump in the plane and go, hey, I'm gonna fly this plane, and flies the plane, no issues, none at all, and he flies the plane perfectly. That's what happens. And the third act is just very messy compared to the rest of the film. And because of the length of the movie, it wasn't even that entertaining. And I was entertained when we got to the time travel stuff and got to the past and the villain's plan. And even the final scene, I think is all very entertaining. The thing is, there's just so many problems. And I would have loved this movie if it shaved a good 20 to 30 minutes off the movie. Like I said, though, it is worth it. First 2 acts, great Indiana Jones movie, and it is a great send-off to one of the most beloved characters. It's emotional, it's great, just needed to tweak that third act just a little bit. Kicking off my top 3, we got, and this is as big of a surprise to me as it was to you, The Flash being this low on the list. It was number 2, and I was sure it was going to be number 2 until last night, where you learn what my number 2 is. Didn't make a review, so it's going to be kind of a surprise movie for you guys. Anyways, The Flash is a great movie. Superhero movies have been kind of in the dumps for a little while with everything Marvel's been putting out and DC's been putting out. I mean, DC had Black Adam and Shazam Fear the Gods in a row. Not totally terrible movies, but kind of bland. Marvel has had Quantumania, Wakanda Forever, which I liked but didn't love. Love and Thunder, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, and it's all just been in the dumps here. And so now 3 in a row, we got solid movies. Guardians 3, The Flash, Across the Spider-Verse. Superhero movies are back. With The Flash, I think that really works in this one is the ideas here. It's not just a big superhero movie where action has to happen, because the whole second act does barely have any action. And the action sequences are fun. I really liked Michael Keaton coming in there beating up some bad guys. That was great. But it barely has any action. And what works about the movie is the 2 berries, their chemistry, learning what's going on in this new world, and the thought-provoking subject here, and the emotions. It doesn't need to have big action sequences. It doesn't need to be the predictable plot that we always get. That's all it needed to be. A funny superhero movie. The 2 Ezra Millers, they had great chemistry with themselves, with himself. I don't know what to say. Anyways, they both had fantastic chemistry with themselves. I'm going down a rabbit hole with that. The whole cast is great. Sasha Calle, Michael Keaton returns. It's all great. It's all wonderful. It's all awesome. Michael Shannon returns. That's great. The action, when there is action, the second act has great action sequences. The final act had a great action sequence. The thought-provoking, the world building here was great. Learning what's going on in this world, learning everything was great. And the emotions are really solid as well. When we get to that final act and we learn that Barry actually has to kill his mom and doesn't actually get what he wants, it's very emotional. And you see the desperation. That final scene with him and his mom was very good and very well done. And then the way he saved his dad was also very well done and done really great. And it was really awesome the way that was done. And the whole universe reset, I still have questions, but it was done decent enough as a way. And overall, for DC, this is a very high bar for DC. The way DC Studios has been lately, they've been in desperation. They needed something to work. And this one worked because of the 2 leads, the fun, the comedy, and overall how entertaining the movie was. It didn't need to be the best superhero movie ever. It wasn't the best superhero movie of all time like I've been hearing from a lot of people. But for me, it was what we call an entertaining superhero movie. I sat down, I was entertained by the movie, and it was good. And even the ending really was thought-provoking for me. The problem here is the ending was also just a tiny bit messy. We start off with Barry getting his powers in like the messiest way possible, where he is shocked by lightning, and that's a whole 15-minute sequence that really didn't need to be there and could have been shaved off to be made real short. And then we move on to the final act, which is done really well, but it definitely raises some questions, and the general audience is typically probably not going to get it. But overall, for me, I think that this is just a solely entertaining blockbuster that doesn't have to be the greatest movie of all time, the greatest superhero movie of all time. All the Flash had to do was be entertaining, and compared to DCEU, this is one of the better films. But now it's time for the surprise movie that I actually watched last night. Number 2 is going to be Nimona. And for me, this movie is kind of interesting for me because it's mainly what people go on Twitter and they say. When I see an animated movie, it normally reminds me of like anime things for Studio Ghibli. I'm not that kind of person. I don't like anime. I'm not all that interested in Studio Ghibli. Maybe I'll watch them someday, but I'm not interested in them right now. So sitting back and I watched this movie, and I gotta say, I was very shocked. I saw on Twitter that people were saying, yeah, this is a great movie. And I stepped into this movie thinking, yeah, I'll probably like it, but it'll probably have issues and probably not be that good. As of now, it's in my top 5 because of how good this movie is. Do not sleep on Nimona. It is very good. It deserves praise. I really liked it. Starting with the positive, the whole cast this year. Chloe Grace Moretz kind of disappeared for a while for me during the COVID era when film started to get back. She was in a lot of things. Shadow on the Cloud, Tom and Jerry. She was in quite a bit of things. And then she just disappeared. And, yeah, never returned again. And for me, I was like, where'd she go? Okay. And when I saw she was in this movie, I was like, finally, I get another movie with her. She was turning into one of my favorite actresses, and she disappeared. And she is great in this movie. She has great chemistry with everybody else. This movie is genuinely funny. It actually has really good jokes. There's a joke here where she's a shapeshifter, so she turns into a demon baby and starts scaring people. It's absolutely hilarious for me. And the emotions are really good here. In the end, we're begging the whole movie to find out what Nimona's past is, what she is, and she's a likable character. And so when we get to that sequence, it's very emotional, and there's some twists in that sequence that really, really worked, and genuinely had me, when it happened, I was like, wow. And this is a Netflix movie, and for a Netflix movie, the animation is gorgeous and beautiful, and it's like, animation is changing for the better. I mean, this next film I'm going to talk about is also great animation. You know what it is. Anyways, the animation is beautiful, and it's awesome, and just, it's all animated really well to where not only the action scenes fit seamlessly, but there's no animation errors for a streaming movie. And there's emotion. It's written excellently. It's just, overall, for me, a really good movie. And it's one of those movies that it's an hour and 45 minutes. That's with the credits, which are 20 minutes long. So technically like an hour and 30 minutes. And the movie never really got any time where I was bored. It starts off and it's got fun characters, a fun story, and it's just a movie to watch and never fully get bored. And when we get to the ending with the emotions and the action, it's also really solid. And to me, this is a great and perfect movie. For Netflix to make a movie like this, it is absolutely shocking. Believe it or not, this movie was shelved by Disney and Blue Sky. This could have saved Blue Sky. But no, because it had some gay characters in it. Too bad. Gay people are gay. And one more thing, I don't like how people are calling this an LGBTQ plus movie. It's really not. It's just got 2 gay characters in it. So you can watch it even if you don't want to watch it because of that. I still think it's done beautifully with excellent animation, excellent story, excellent action, that I will be thinking about this one, and it's just really good. And for a Netflix movie to be making my top 5 so far with great emotions, great everything, it's absolutely incredible. I did have one tiny little issue with it. That issue was that at times it did try to play it too childish, like it's a PG movie, and I sat back and I was thinking, these Spider-Verse movies are PG, but they never feel like they're made for kids. This movie kind of aimed for the lowbrow humor a couple times, maybe like the movie to keep kids on the edge of their seats and entertained for 2 hours while the parents can do something. It's one of those movies at times. But overall, like, the story is done really well. And for a Netflix movie, I'm shocked by how good this movie actually was. It's actually great, and I really hope it stays in my top 10 for the rest of the year. But, come on, guys. Did you really think that anything other than Across the Spider-Verse would be number 1? This movie is great. Cast, emotions, story, honoring Spider-Man. Perfect. Perfect. This movie honors Spider-Man with everything it's got. The main story is that Spider-Man can't save everybody, and somebody has to die for Spider-Man to be made who he is, and it's perfect done perfectly well. The writing is amazing. The story is amazing. The animation is amazing. It's 2.5 hours, and yet the moment it was done, I wanted to go and watch a sequel. It left you wanting more instantly. It's got a great story, great emotions, great cast. It's not only Spider-Man, it's Spider-Universe. Because Gwen has her own story here that is great. Just from the opening sequence. The opening sequence where we meet Gwen and where she's at is done so perfectly well. And it's balanced out. And she gets her own character arc through the movie. Miles gets his own character arc. At one time, it feels like a completed character arc. It feels like a completed movie. While also leaving you more with a big cliffhanger at the end that was written perfectly well and made so good. It is absolutely phenomenal the way this movie is. It's an absolutely phenomenal movie. And I just cannot believe that this is the movies that they are cranking out, because it's just so good. And one of my favorite movies of all time. One time after seeing it, I knew it was my favorite Spider-Man movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's just so good. I cannot wait for it to come out on Blu-ray so I can watch it over and over again. I love this movie. That's why it's number one. Let me know down below your ranking of all the June movies you saw. I want to know all that and more. Also, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell. And like I said, comment down below your ranking of all the June movies you saw. I'm going to have a bunch of other videos coming out. Tomorrow's going to be a Transformers ranking. After that, I got a DCEU ranking. And then I got Barry review, Barry ranking, Breaking Bad review, a whole bunch of other videos that I'm going to be really behind for. And yeah, also it's July, so we got Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, Barbie, Haunted Mansion. Yay, I'm going to be really behind this month. But that was all of this video. With that said, comment down below what is your ranking of the June movies, and with that said, subscribe, join the Nerd Army. Peace out.